right. It's May 20th, 2021. This is Rook. She is an Iranian-American performer who has become known as one of the best female singer-songwriters in the diaspora. She is celebrated for her sublime voice and her captivating performances in Persian, but she's a kid who grew up in the States and has never actually been to Iran. Rana Mansour was playing piano by the age of 3 and writing songs in her early teens. She's grown into the Iranian star behind songs like Shohar Puldaram Barun, and she is fresh off co-hosting the musical TV show Replay. Rana Mansour joins us for a feature interview today, plus a new edition of It's All Persian To Us. This is conversations from, to, and about the Iranian diaspora. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. This is Rook. Hi there, everyone. Welcome to episode number 112 of Rook. A big hello to those of you in all places around the world. We're coming to you from Toronto, Canada. A special shout out to those of you listening in the UK. Captain Reza, you know this, I think. The UK has become the number 4 country in terms of our audience. It has supplanted Germany and Australia. It's catapulted itself. The country of my birth.
Yeah.
My brothers and sisters there in the UK. Number 4, of course, it's Canada, US, Iran, and then the UK. So a shout out to my fellow vaccinated AstraZeneca people.
I was just going to say that. Maybe that's the reason why.
They realized I got the same vaccine and they started listening to the show. Yeah. It's great. I love that. I love that there's a lot of people listening in the UK. Khosh omadin bacheha, durud bar shoma. Welcome to Rook. We are on an ongoing mission to build a new audiovisual encyclopedia of Iranian diaspora identity. We're coming to you on Spotify, SoundCloud, Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, and Telegram. If you'd like to see some visuals with your Rook, switch over to YouTube right now. And if you like your Rook descriptions and bulletins in Persian as well as in English, check us out on Telegram. Rana Mansour, coming up in just a few minutes from Los Angeles. Shaya, I was thinking about her. I think she is one of the great vocalists of the world right now.
I think so.
I want to issue the disclaimer here because I think, especially in the Persian community, we have a tendency to big up things like it's like Pesaraman bisarash pezeshkam hast, that kind of thing. She is one of the best piano players, but she's 7, like that. But in the case of Rana Mansour, I actually think, she is just such an extraordinary talent. And, whether it's your musical style or it isn't, whether you know her or you don't know her, whether you're Iranian or you're not Iranian, this woman's voice is just a beautiful instrument.
Yeah, I told you the previous episode, actually, I told you that the first time I listened to her voice, I was like, oh, this is it. We need this voice in our industry.
I think I told you that, and then you told me that back. Don't try and claim this. I said it first.
Oh my God!
Is Rana Mansour on the phone yet?
I think she just hung up.
They're trying to take
We're
credit
fighting
for who
over her before the
complimented
show
her
has
first.
started. Anyway, Rana Mansour joining us from Los Angeles in just a few moments. Hello, the fabulous Kyan.
Hi, Jian.
We do some formal introductions. Hello, Groovy Shaya.
Hi, Aziz.
And the Captain Reza.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. Hey, in the coming days on Rook, I wanted to announce we have Nima Nazeri coming up. He is an Iranian-Canadian, I guess you call him a comedian, performer.
Yeah, definitely comedian.
He's so funny.
He's the best.
You think he's the best?
He's probably the funniest comedian in Toronto. I can I'll put my stamp of approval right there and say
big.
it. Yeah.
Okay, in Toronto.
I think,
That's
in
just
Toronto.
in this city.
But maybe even soon the world. Who knows? You never know.
So in Calgary, there might be somebody better.
I don't know. I don't live in Calgary. I live in Toronto,
You
and I
think
can
in Toronto.
say matter of fact that he's the best.
Right. He is the best in
The best.
Best in the world.
in this on the 3 streets in which the radius of which where he lives.
4 blocks radius.
Toronto
the
is a
best.
large city.
It is.
I'll
a
have
large
you
city.
know this.
I think he's brilliant. I look forward to having him in studio. He's coming into the Rook studio. He's very funny. He makes these funny videos on social media, and he's also an actor and a comedian. Nima Nazeri. Also, we've not announced this yet, but I will announce right now. Hila Sediqi. So, does that name sound familiar to you? No. Well, I'll tell you. Well, I know Shaya would probably know her or know of her. She is a poet and a social activist in Iran. I guess it was It was during the Green Movement that she became very well known, very young at the time, and very outspoken as a poet, a political poet in Iran. She's quite captivating when she speaks and the way she looks, and she will be joining us from Iran. Hila Sediqi. I know there's a lot of people in the diaspora around the world who know her, follow her. I'm very interested to get to talk to her. And then as well, Sahar Fatemi, who is in the UK. She was a football analyst. That's interesting enough. An Iranian British football, like soccer, football analyst. But now she's created this site called Tadiq Lover, which
Nice
is
transition.
popular. Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot to talk about, and who can disagree with these things? I think she has. I just want to say this before Shaya does, the best Tadiq.
Wait, she makes Tadiq? Like she's a Tadiq maker?
She, to go to her Instagram. It's called
Okay.
Tadiq Lover.
I'll check
She's
it
got a
out.
whole website, and but yeah, she makes all kinds of different Tadiq and celebrates the splendor, the magic of Tadiq.
Magic of Tadiq.
Come on now. If you are a fan of of our program, if you're a regular listener, we would love you to become a patron of Rook. We are an independent program, no big corporate funding. We want to remain independent, not beholden to any corporation, any network, any party, any ideology. We want to stay indie. We can only do that through your help. So if you go to our website, rookmedia.com, it's really simple to do. Support us by hitting the Support Us button. And $5 or $10 a month, you become a patron of Rook. We so appreciate those of you who've become patrons and help to keep us going. You can also subscribe on any of our platforms for free, as well as becoming a patron. So we invite you to do that. I had an incident with my little French bulldog, Oogie, this morning that made me think about how we've been living in this era of wearing masks. And I feel, it feels... I don't want to get too optimistic, but it feels like that's going to come to an end in the coming months or
Let's hope.
years.
If ever.
It's been an interesting exercise. Like in a way, I kind of liked it. It's like we've been involved in a masquerade party, like a costume party for a global. Everybody,
Positive way to
disguise
look at it.
themselves. But of course, there is something liberating about removing the mask. And I was thinking about how animals must see us, because we became these people who would wear coverings on our heads, on our faces. And like, what do they make of it, So today, as you can see, I'm wearing my kola cap, my
I
baseball
see that.
cap,
Yeah.
and I was wearing shades. I was wearing like sunglasses, the big sunglasses, and I had the mask on.
Oh, no.
So I basically look like
Criminal.
a bandit. Yeah, I look like I'm in full disguise. I look like Michael Jackson. When he was trying to hide that he was Michael Jackson, and he'd wear I don't know if that's what he was doing. He would wear the mask
sure.
and the shades and the helmet or whatever. But so and to come into this building, of course, you have to wear a mask, and so I was taking Oogie. Now Oogie has his own little home at the back of my car. It's a hatchback. And so you open up the back, and Oogie has his bed there and everything. And normally I open it and I go, all right, let's go, buddy. And he jumps out, and I had the shades and the mask and the hat. He knows it's me, but he was just staring at me like he wouldn't move. And he was just like, what the fuck? What are you doing?
Poor dog.
Why are you dressed like,
Where's my dad?
I swear he couldn't figure it out. I mean, dogs are so intuitive and they're sensitive, and I'm sure he knew it was me.
Are you
But he
sure?
was he cocked his head. He was kind of looking at me like, what? And so I had to I took off the sunglasses, I took off the mask, and I was like, come on, Oogie. And then he jumped out, but he wasn't having any of it. He was like,
he didn't scream in terror.
it's so interesting. Like, what do animals think of us, in this moment?
Do you want to know what I think about you as an
As an
speaking animal?
Yes.
I'm scared
yes.
to know.
Speaking
Yeah.
animal, I love that.
I mean, I always can recognize you
Uh-huh.
by you have a very particular style when you stand up.
What is
Yeah.
that style?
It has a very drummer curve, especially when you walk. You
You can tell I'm a drummer?
I can say that you count your walk. I mean, you have a metronome in
I do have a metronome,
mind when
but I
you
don't know if I
walk.
count while I'm walking.
No, I mean-
there's a rhythm when I'm
Yes,
walking.
yes,
Oh,
yes. Like
I'll take that. But that what is this thing when I'm standing? It's a weird conversation.
I
What's
don't know
talking
what
about?
to, I don't know what I'm
What's
just
happening
letting
with
it play out.
The point is
Are
that
you,
I
stoned again before the show? It's early.
Again.
Well, I mean, with Shia, you never know what you're getting here. Is that what what are you imagining right now? The way I'm standing.
The point is that I want to say that I am an animal. I saw
Uh-huh.
this conversation.
This was so that you could say you are an animal. All right.
Speaking animal.
You didn't need to clarify that. You're certainly an
This was
animal.
one of the
But with a
weirdest
hat and a
conversations.
mask and sunglasses, it's pretty hard to recognize Jian, I would say.
No, that's what I'm going
Yeah.
to say.
Oh.
You don't have to recognize Jian by his face.
But
He's-
Oogie's a dog. I don't think he recognizes.
Maybe-
Oh no.
What do you
Oogie,
Smell
like I'd say half a kilometer away can
Really?
he sees people. They got good eyes too. No, he can he can feel it, So that's why I'm right near him. I knew he knew it was me. But
He was just
I think he was more, it was editorial. Like he was like, what is this all about
He's making
now?
fun of you.
He's kind of, he's like, is this really necessary?
clown.
This whole get up? Do you have, even if you have to wear the mask, what about this hat now? What are you
Shame
doing?
on you, Jian.
Exactly.
Come on, be
he
a
was just, he
man.
was just not, he basically it was Oogie's way of saying, "Lus nakon khodato like,
Intelligent animal.
Oh,
I've
wha-
never had a dog, so I have no clue.
this is,
that
I
there's
can
that
tell, because you're a little slightly disparaging, of Oogie and his,
disparaging.
yeah, he's actually very smart. He's a very highly intelligent.
He's cute
being.
and sweet. I just never thought of him as an intelligent animal. I barely think Reza
This is
is.
seldom have you
I
said
barely
anything that
think-
has offended me.
I
as
barely
much as-
think Reza is an intelligent animal,
Well,
let alone Oogie. So.
Exactly.
I
You know,
gotta
the
if
bar
you're
is high.
in
for
the
intelligence.
comparison with Reza, Oogie's a
my
Rhodes
God.
Scholar.
You guys.
I tell you, Oogie's handwriting is a lot better than Reza's.
I believe
That's for
it.
sure.
That's true.
After taking a small respite, we are going to be back on Clubhouse tomorrow night. I don't know if we'll do it every week, but let's do it tomorrow night, right?
Okay.
Now, I'm trying to think of what our topic is, and I was thinking we have received so much reaction to Monday's episode
Oh
with
my
Dr.
God.
Angie Sadiqi. I'm not sure if we've ever gotten,
People do not want to give up their Kaaba, let alone their mosque.
Iranians are super
Yeah.
defensive.
Yeah.
You start talking about giving up meat and dairy.
Yeah.
So to
World
recap,
War
for those
III.
who missed it, and please go back and listen to episode 111, we had Dr. Angie Sadiqi, a sort of well-known gastroenterologist in Los Angeles or Newport Beach, and she's got a big social media following, and she is very passionate about advocating for a non-dairy, a dairy-free diet, a plant-based diet. She's a vegan. And she makes the case for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew, because even leading up to the show, there was a couple of members of the team, Aray Mehdad, had said, I find this controversial, and I've got problems, and so I knew that we were going to get some pushback,
Yeah.
And wow, I mean, there's people who love her message and what she has to say, and then there's people who disagree. But then there's this whole other category of people who are, I mean, you'd think that we were attacking, she was attacking somebody's mother, I mean, just like, how dare you? This is, and we're talking about milk and meat, it's not but boy, what a conversation. It's really got people going.
Yeah, I can't wait to pull up the letters for Monday's show.
I can't wait to hear what you pick out of the letters of the week next Monday. So I was thinking for Clubhouse tomorrow, I've left a message for her. It would be great if we could get Dr. Angie herself and have her respond to some of this. But maybe what we'll do is talk about whether you're ready to give up your paneer and kebab to the Persian community tomorrow night on Clubhouse. We'll talk about something, if not that. 8 p.m. Toronto time, New York time. Find us on Clubhouse. We're all there under our names. We've got a new episode before we get to Rana Mansour. Let me just remind folks that after Rana, a new episode of It's All Persian To Us coming up.
Yeah, this one's interesting, guys. I know I've said this before, but this
and you never deliver. You say it, and then it's a disappointment.
All right, where's my? Let me just prepare my slap. So this is very popular in the summertime. Like I can say, like everybody likes what I like this item that I'm going to reveal.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll have a new episode of It's All Persian To Us coming up. The fabulous Kyan. We'll see you in just a little bit. Groovy Shaya, Captain Reza, stick around. Let's get to our feature guest. And my feature guest today is an Iranian-American singer-songwriter that you might just recognize, besides the fact that she sings in at least 10 different languages. If you are a fan of Persian music, you will likely have heard her very special voice. Take a listen to this. Taste of the song Barun by Rana Mansour, a song that appeared on her first Persian language album entitled Rana Mansour in 2015. Rana was born in the States, in Virginia, near Washington, D.C., where she grew up. She began playing piano, the story goes, at the age of 3 and was singing not too long after that. By the time she was 14, she was writing songs, and at 17 began attending the prestigious Berklee College School of Music in Boston, where she would receive a music degree with honors. Rana had released some of her own songs on a record called Sweet 16 as a teenager in 1997, and then put out a compilation on iTunes called The Adventures of Indie Girl in 2008 in English. But it was perhaps with her Persian debut that she made her biggest splash in 2015 with the sassy single Shohar Puldar, and a compelling mix of jazz and pop and ballads. Rana's music challenged the standard arrangements often heard in Persian pop. She followed that up with an album called Eshq Nob in 2019, as well as a record of acoustic covers in English, and has released a number of singles in the last couple of years. She has been seen performing on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, on Manoto TV's hit show Stage, and BBC Persian, to name a few places. And she has performed all over the world, including headlining the Çarşamba Suri Festival in Malmö, Sweden, and was most recently the co-host of Replay, a popular music show on MBC Persia. But right now, Rana Mansour joins me from Los Angeles. Hello.
Hey, Jian. How are you? Thank you so much for the lovely intro.
I'm so happy to have you on the program. Thank you so much for doing this. What were you thinking as you heard Barun just now? I'm always curious. Do you like listening to your older material?
I don't I don't like really listening to any of my material, to be totally honest with you. I even have a hard time going back and watching previous interviews, listening to the sound of my voice when I talk, when I laugh. I'm like, oh, I am for sure my own worst critic, big time. But I'll tell you what I was thinking about when I heard Barun. Barun was actually the first song that I released officially. It wasn't Shohar Pulda. Shohar Pulda was my first like really well recognized song.
Yes.
Barun was the first music video that I released, and I was going through a lawsuit at that time.
Yes.
And so Siru Sikerduni was the director of that video. And I had just like ripped myself away from a management company that had like, we signed a contract and they breached their end of the contract basically. And so because of their breach, I walked. And because I walked, they decided to sue me. I mean, it was just a really tumultuous and dramatic thing that happened in my career. And Siru Sikerduni just kind of like magically appeared and was like, I want to do a video for you. I believe in you. And this is the song that, you know, I've picked to do the video. And yeah, so that's every time I hear that song, I think about, and also the guy that did the arrangement, same thing. Like he was like, I love this song. I want to do the arrangement for you and I want to help you out. Vahan, yeah, just lovely people will enter into your life if you stay true to yourself, even though you can't prevent challenges, you can't prevent ups and downs.
Do you know why I have a smile on my face?
Why?
Because I barely asked a question yet.
I know, I talk a lot.
You're a fantastic guest. You just press go and Rana delivers. I mean, you've said a lot there. There's so much, but it sounds like it was the right choice. It was it was the right choice to play off the top. It invoked all kinds of emotions in you. I'm glad to hear. Well, I'm not glad to hear about your lawsuit, but I'm glad to hear that song is a pivotal song because it felt like it. It feels like it listening to it. And it certainly seems like a turning point in your career. If you look at it, it was after 2015 where you really got known from that record and some of those songs. But two steps back where you said, I don't like listening to anything. What is it that makes it so difficult? I mean, because with you in particular, and we're going to get into this, but you really have an outstanding voice. I mean, you would be the last person in the world I would think would have trouble listening back to her singing voice. So surely you can't find fault with your singing voice, do you?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a total perfectionist. So when I listen back at stuff, I will, and also a lot of it has to do with the fact that I was formally educated, and a lot of it has to do with that as well. You know, it's the perfectionist side of me. It's the side of me that's had the honor of having a formal education. So I can hear it and I can be like, ugh, it's just not. I just never felt like I could make the perfect song or the perfect record. Nothing. I can't honestly look back at anything and maybe a few things and be like,
how long does it take between the release before you hate it? We used to ask that in my old band because you always feel, the joke is that you always feel like when you're making the record, it's the best thing you've ever done. And then, it's a matter of how many weeks, how many months, how many years until I really hate this. What about you? How long does it take?
As soon as it's released, honestly, like as soon as it's done and it's released, it's like, okay, moving on. Let's go to the next one. It's done. It's done. Like, let's go to the next.
That's quite a curse being that much of a perfectionist, huh? You don't cut yourself any slack. I mean, does that go for performances too? Are you going to, when we play a bit of that outstanding performance of you doing the tribute to Ebby, are you going to say,
oh my God. I did not have a sound check they did not give me a sound check or a rehearsal for that.
So I got my answer. You're not going to consider that. You're incredible there. That's amazing.
There's a part where at the very, very end, I'm trying to like match with the drummer. I'm playing and I'm trying to cue him, and I'm literally a beat before he is.
Listen, let me tell you something. Berklee music grad kid, you know that the secret sauce in the magic in music is not perfection, right? Is that we're not robots. The Rolling Stones were loose. That's why they were so good, as long as you've got the groove. So when you're doing that live performance, I'm going to fight you on that one. That Ebby tribute, we'll get to that. Listen, we'll get to that. Let's start from the beginning. It seems like you were fated to do this? I mean, you're so good as a player and singer. Your voice is a beautiful instrument, and you've been doing this since you were 3. You're like Maradona out on the field as a kid playing soccer. Everyone's like, this kid's going to play forever. You know, was it obvious that this was going to be your life? Do you remember a time in your life where music wasn't going to be the thing?
No. My first memory of joy was music. Pure joy. I'll never forget it. I was sitting in the backseat of my dad's car. Something came on the radio. I was very young. And I heard, now I know what that chord progression is, but at that time I didn't know what that chord progression was. I was a kid. It created this huge emotional wave inside of me that I can't forget it.
What was the song? Do you remember what it was?
No. I just remember what I heard. I just remember that the chord progression, the music, how it was moving, and emotionally what it did to me. It was joy and sadness, like a deep, like all in one. It's very hard to explain. It's
the emotions, but you've also talked about music being a safe space for you, especially when you were young and dealing with what you've called the chaos of life. How was music a safe space?
Because of that initial feeling that I had, that I bonded with music on such a deep emotional level. So I felt really safe. I felt understood. Even it's not an animate thing. Like it's an inanimate thing. Like it's not a human being, but I felt it understood me, and I felt like I understand it. Like it was just a very safe place to be for me emotionally. It was something that felt very natural and healing. And I was so drawn to it, like I just wanted to eat it up, you know.
How does it play out on a practical level? Like if you get in a fight with your parents and like going and playing the piano?
Like what would I, like literally how was it?
Yeah, literally how is it?
Yes,
how would you exercise the safe space?
It was like, parents putting, the pressures that parents put on children. And then there's also the social pressures of like, that's what I would do. I would just go in my room. My dad would, and I would lock the door, and my dad being the Persian dad that he is, that was like unacceptable. We don't, no, I need to know everything that you're doing. But I would just be like, Dad, I can't deal with you right now. This is the only thing I want to do. And he'd be like, you have a million other responsibilities that you need to do. You need to face your responsibilities. You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And I'd be like, I don't want to do any of those things. I don't want to do any of those things. I just want to do the thing that makes me feel calm and gives me peace, because all these other outside things are not giving me calmness and peace, Although
they understood or enabled you as a musician, right? Because, you get to go to Berklee. They weren't saying, no, you have to be a doctor. So you at least had that part.
Oh, yeah, no, my dad and my mom also in her own way, they definitely supported me a lot. The rest of the family was like not having it. And you know how in Persian families, I don't know how your family is, but in our family, it was like everybody was involved. Like it wasn't just mom and dad. It was like everybody's involved. The ammas had an opinion. The ammus, actually my ammu was pretty chill. He was like, just do whatever makes you happy, kid. But the other ones were just like, no, they would tell my dad, this is wrong. And so he would be constant. It was hard for him, for sure.
I have to get into this right away in terms of, as we're talking about Persian families and the way you were brought up and your dad. I have to tell you, I assumed until very recently, you probably heard this before, I don't know. I assumed you were some Persian singer who came from Iran. I mean, like maybe even recently. I mean, what do I know? It turns out you were not only born in the States, like me, you grew up in the West. You've never even been to Iran. I mean, at least I've been to Iran. You haven't even been there. It is such an interesting thing to learn when my first window into Rana Mansour was not knowing you as an English singer and songwriter, which you have been, but as a Persian artist. What is it like to be really well known as a Persian artist, known for singing in Farsi, who has never been to Iran?
First of all, I didn't know that I'm really well known. So thank you for telling me that. And I'm not just saying that, honest to God, like I don't know how far that goes.
In the Iranian community, you're pretty well.
In LA, I've been very active in LA. And because I've never been to Iran physically, I don't know the extent to, I'm being genuinely honest with you, John. Like,
right.
I know that people know me here in Los Angeles, and I know that people know me in DC because that's where I grew up. And I know that there are people that know me in Iran. I don't know the extent of how far that goes. But anyway, can you tell me what the question was again? Sorry.
Well, the question, but that's interesting. Don't you think if you're getting hundreds of thousands of views of your videos that somebody knows who you are?
I also don't follow that.
Okay.
I also don't follow the numbers and the stats and the statistics. I don't. I have literally chosen not to look at that.
Even if it makes you feel good?
Every once in a while, like my team will be like, hey, look at this, they'll show me, they'll be like, look at the comments, like read this, read that, they'll tell me. It's just not a focal point. I'm like, my focal point is the music. My focal point is creating, improving, and being the best possible version of myself that I could ever be, whether it's in English and Farsi or whatever.
All right. Like, well, here's the question. Here's what the question that I asked. Right. I feel like the subtext of this interview has to be biculturalism. I mean, because you're sort of this paragon of someone who has one foot in both worlds in a different way than I have, because I've been much more, let's call it Western for the sake of argument, even though I've always identified as a Persian, and I did TV shows and talked about being Iranian and all that. I really haven't performed in Farsi in the Persian community the way you have. It's very interesting to me. So the initial question is, what's it like to be known, let's not say really well known so you don't get hung up on that, known as a Persian artist known for singing in Farsi when you actually didn't grow up in Iran?
It's a really good feeling. It feels really good. It feels like I accomplished something that a lot of people told me was impossible.
Who told you it was impossible?
Oh, I mean, family members and people here, in the industry. There's particular platforms that at that time when I was starting out doing Persian music, that flat out were like, we're not putting your music on our website. Mm-hmm. And it's the Persian music market. We don't, how many platforms do we have?
And you think is that because of the kind of music you were playing, or because you didn't grow up in Iran?
It sounded to me like it was a mixture. It was like, it's the kind of music, it's the fact that you don't understand the culture. And so the culture will never understand you. They'll never get your music because you're just too far out there. It's too Western, or it's too this, or whatever it was. It was like, there was like, Iruni Pasan nist,
Interesting.
Your music isn't Iruni Pasan. It's not, they're not going to like it. But going back to your question, it feels really good. It feels like I accomplished, it's a really big, good personal goal for me that I was able to do this, and I've been able to have hits in a country I've never been to.
Did you grow up self-identifying as a Persian girl? I mean, like you've mentioned the formal training. You go to Berklee at 17, which by the way is remarkable. And that's a great school, and you're still just a teenager. You go there. At that point, were you self-identifying as I'm the Persian girl here in Boston, or did you feel quite American?
Very American. I never had a Persian friend really growing up. I had some, but my closest friends were American.
See, that makes it even more interesting, doesn't it?
I mean, we had different backgrounds. Like I wasn't allowed to have sleepovers. So there was like things that I couldn't relate to with my American friends.
Right.
There was that. There's definitely like lines that I didn't understand them, and they couldn't understand me. Like they couldn't understand why my dad just wouldn't be okay with having a sleepover. It was like, what's the big deal? But my dad would be like, no, you're not. This is your home. You sleep in your home. You don't need to go and sleep in someone else's home. But in American culture, it's like, it's just a sleepover. What's the big deal? But in our culture, it was like, what, your home's not good enough for you? Like, absolutely not. Like, you're not, I still don't even really understand like why that was such a big deal. But it wasn't just that. So there were things culturally. Hot dogs. I wasn't allowed to have hot dogs. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Also not allowed to have ketchup.
Right. That's you see, I envy the kids who, and there's a lot of them now, who grow up, even though they come here to the West, that is, and but they're fully in a Persian community. All their friends are Persian and stuff. And even though I say the things of, come on, you guys, integrate more into the community. Why do you have a Persian-y accent even though you didn't grow up there or something? I envy them to a certain extent because I didn't have that at all. And so the disconnect became more profound, as you're talking about, between my friends around me and their experience and what I was dealing with at home.
Yeah.
When you go to Berklee, I guess you already had the chops. I want to play something. It may seem strange to you that I've picked this. It's a cover tune, an acoustic cover tune of the Elton John song Rocket Man. But I wanted to play something of you singing in English, just to demonstrate your chops as a singer and as a piano player, because I think it really shows you off. Can I play a little bit of this? This is from just a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, I actually did that. It was when the movie was coming out. So I was like, oh, let me cover it.
It's a little bit of Rocket Man, Rana Mansour.
I miss the earth so much. I miss my wife. It's lonely out in space on such a timeless flight. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh no, 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 I'm a rocket man. Rocket man, burning out his fuse up here alone.
I just love it so much. That version, it really shows you off. The interesting thing to me is that that's a cover tune, and I see you doing a lot of cover tunes. And yet, when I learn about your history, you become a finalist in 2005 for the VH1 Song of the Year competition. You got to be a teenager at that point. By the age of 21, you're signed.
You're going with this.
You're signed to a publishing deal with Warner Chappell. Now, let me just explain to folks listening out there who I've had a publishing deal. It wasn't easy to get. You have to be considered that this means a big company thinks that you're a good enough songwriter that they're going to pay you money or put you on their roster to write songs for yourself or more likely for others. That's how good a songwriter you were at the age of 21. And yet much of what you've been doing in recent years is not the music that you write. It's very curious. Tell me about that.
That's really interesting. First of all, I have all the songs are just like sitting on my laptop and not released. So there's that whole perfectionist thing, and also the timing. I'm thankfully getting back into that now. I feel like I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in the Persian market, and I feel like now I'm more ready. And also, like, artist management has a lot to do with it. Other people's opinions and how you should start out, how you should market yourself, how you should get known. But it was like, okay, I'm not 100% passionate about this, but because it's going to get me from point A to point B, and I need to get from point A to point B, I'll do that. And then I'll get to that place and then I'll be like, okay, now I'm settled. Now I'm going to do the thing I really want to do. Basically, everything that you have seen of Rana Mansour up until this point has just been for me to help get my name out there. I have not even gotten started, Jian. I have not even gotten started. And that's not an arrogance thing at all. It is like I know my bag here. And I have purposely held on to it and done other things because I needed to get from point A to point B. I wanted to get known in the Persian music market. How could I get known in the Persian music market? I had to do things that were a little bit more Irani-pasand, but without like sacrificing artistic integrity too much. So accepting songs from like songwriters in Iran that would be like, this is it, because this platforms wouldn't support me.
Okay, hang on a second. Hang on.
People are attracted to familiarity.
Three steps back. Back, because
I know I'm going.
It's too interesting. First of all, why I'm grateful that you did. You've done some great work. Many people will be that you went into Persian music as well. But why make that decision? I mean, an argument could be made that you're so good. There's a global market in the billions for English music. Why make
I'm not dead yet. I'm still alive.
No. But why make the and you're young? But why make the diversion at all into Persian music? Why did you choose to do that?
Because I knew that it would get me known. I want recognition. Because how can you as an artist, without getting public recognition, you got to grow, the numbers have to grow. So I had to sacrifice some of my artistic integrity in order to get some recognition.
Okay, so some of it, because you've said after studying music and you taught music, you've talked about how you had to let go of over 90% of what you learned when you started creating Persian pop. That you basically had to dumb things down.
Do it. I couldn't use it. I couldn't utilize.
Well, that's heartbreaking.
It really is, and it definitely set me back on a creative level. It set me back for a very, very long time, and we're talking 10 years, because I've been living in LA for 10 years. So for the last 10 years, I have been doing private parties, singing Farsi cover songs. I have been trying to get my name out there. I've been trying to get the numbers up without sacrificing too much of my artistic too much more. It's I already sacrificed that much. I was like, okay, now here's my breaking point. There were definitely just things that came to me, and I was like, no, I'm not accepting that.
Right.
There was a lot of material that came my way that I was like, no. A lot of opportunities that came my way that I was like, no.
Let me ask you this as a musician. Explain this to me. And I want you to explain this to me, because as a Westerner, as somebody who didn't grow up listening to Nazi June, why is some Persian pop, especially the stuff that becomes very famous, that gets played a lot, that gets played at the Mehmonis, that get played on the big platforms, generally so unimaginative, uncreative, just cookie cutter, over and over again, the same stuff, other than some interesting covers maybe that people do? Why is it all the same? Why isn't it more inventive?
Every cover that I've done, every cover that you've heard me do, I've made it my own.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's a huge benefit in singing covers and getting known through covers, especially if it's with a culture that especially in the Persian culture where it's okay, I'm a female. I want to do pop. I want to do pop that's different.
Right.
The biggest platform is not supporting me. What are my options?
What's the biggest platform? Radio Javon?
At that time, they were not supporting me at all. None of my songs are on there. Maybe one or two is on their website. Uh-huh. And I don't really care. I don't care. Good for them. I have no ill will towards anybody, honest to God. In fact, they did me a huge favor.
Why weren't they supporting you?
They didn't want to. I don't know. They had their reasons. They were you're not going to make it. Your music, no one will connect to it. You're not going to make it. What you want to do, what your vision is for music and art is not going to work. And we're talking about at a time that 10 years ago when who else was there? Now there's a lot of people. Now people are like, oh, let's start going on Spotify. I'm I've been talking about Spotify for a really freaking long time.
Right.
So I had a very limited options. Going back to the question that you asked me, how does it feel? You know what? Let's be real here. I'll tell you how it feels. Yeah. It feels like whoever said you're not going to, I went against all the odds. All the odds were stacked against me. All of them. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I wish I could only do original music, but that's not going to get me known. Shohar Puda was totally original, 100% original. I wrote that. That's mine,
But this is what I'm trying to get you to explain to it, because you would know it intimately. You're so talented, you have an amazing voice, you can play, you're clearly well-spoken and charming. The only thing left, seems to me, if they're saying we're not going to, is that you're not somehow playing the game. You're not making the exact kind of music that you're supposed to be making or something like that, or you're not doing or saying what you're supposed to do. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. What is that? What were you supposed to be doing?
Beats me, ask them.
Right.
I don't know. But for me, in my head, I was like, okay, so you want cookie cutter stuff. So you want people that you can control. Like that's what you want. And I'm not anyone that you can control. I'm not anyone that you can mold me into the thing. I'll cooperate. I'm not aggressive. Like I'm cool. And your job as a platform, it's to basically be like Switzerland and be like, I'm neutral. Does that make sense? It's like, sure, there's like filters, there's things that you got to be like, okay, we're not accepting this. But as a platform, in my opinion, like Spotify doesn't do that. Spotify's like, you can find anything on Spotify.
I think the problem when it comes to Persian music, perhaps, is that there's no alternatives. That there isn't 20 channels that play all kinds of different stuff. There, here's the indie one, here's the adult alternative one, here's the and so that channel becomes the kingmaker, right? It becomes the one that gets to choose who makes it and who doesn't.
Right, and it also makes me question what, like, those platforms, like that particular platform, that, like, because I did a song called Fayad Kohne, I did a song called Zan. Recently, I did a song called Azadi. That was very important for me. It was like, okay, the fact that you're not putting those songs on your platform, why? Why would you not add a song that could help a lot of people? No one supported those songs. We did all that independently. I've basically done everything independently since Barun. Since the release of Barun, I have done everything independently. I've had help along the way. I've had support.
So what would, when you say people would come to, and I'm not necessarily talking about like sleazy types or whatever, but what would be the kind of thing that somebody would say, hey, if you can just sing exactly what we tell you to do and we'll produce it and we'll put it out and we'll do the arrangement and you probably will have no connection to the song at all, but we make you a star. Is that really, the only option? Either that or we won't play you?
I don't think I've ever thought about it that deeply. I think for me, it was just kind of like, we're obviously not understanding each other. You go your way, I go mine.
Right.
I mean, I'm an artist. I'm a very passionate person. I've definitely burned some bridges, and it's fine. You have to. I'm really in a good place right now, though, Jian.
Good.
Like, honestly, I'm in
Good.
a really, really good place right
Good.
now. As I mentioned before, and I'm so happy that you brought up like the fact that I have so much songwriting experience, and I have hundreds of songs literally sitting on my laptop.
I want to hear your songs. That's what I want to hear.
They're coming.
Yes.
They are coming. I'm working on them now. I have been manifesting. I'm telling you, they're in my bag.
Where is the bag?
I've been busy doing other things. I've been busy, like, what is it? Chop wood, carry water. What is it?
Yeah, well, that's it. There's chopping wood and carrying water, I guess.
Is that what it is? It's like, I feel like I have been building myself a foundation. It was very tumultuous, but I personally now feel a lot more stable with where I'm at in my Persian music market career. I'm feeling that I'm in a place where I'm also financially stable at a time where it's very difficult for a lot of people. So I feel very good right now. Like, I feel really, really good after a very long and dark cycle. And I've been through a lot. And I feel like I'm just getting started. I'm like, now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, now I can do the thing I really want to do. And I'm doing that. So next year, we'll be having a very different conversation.
The song's in the bag. No. I want, first of all, guard the bag. Don't put the bag somewhere safe.
I'm writing right now. I feel more creative now than ever.
This is what I want to hear. That's exciting to me. They're
in English. You'll be able to understand
That's
them.
what I want to know.
They come from my heart.
I understand Farsi, please.
The Rana Mansour that you have been waiting for.
That was going to be my question. Are the songs in the bag in English or are they in Farsi?
In English.
When you're writing, do you feel more you, or does it feel more comfortable writing in English?
Oh, absolutely. It's way more comfortable writing in English. I've tried writing in Farsi. Every time I write, this is the thing on a musical level, let me explain that Farsi lyrics are the most important part of a song. In a Persian song, the lyrics are the most important thing. They get the main focal point. Okay? In music, I learned that the music gets the main focal point. That it doesn't matter what's being said lyrically. The music needs to be on point. That's what I want to say. It wasn't that I felt I was better. It was that our focal points were so different.
Right.
My focal point was like, hey, musically, this needs to be like incredible. And they were like, no, but the melody doesn't match what's going on with the lyrics. So we have to change this and we have to change this. And the melody that you came up with, it's not matching the emphasis of the syllable that it has to match on this Farsi lyric. Now I'm getting kind of technical, but that's a huge challenge.
Interesting.
Am I making sense?
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, that's actually, no one has said that in that way before, and that's very helpful to me. You are absolutely right that the great, I mean, other than the ones that we consider poets like Bob Dylan or Leonard Cohen or whatever, the great songs in rock and roll music or in pop are usually not about the lyrics. They're usually about a great melody and whatever the lyric is, she loves you, whatever doesn't, it's a little less important. But it is the inverse in Persian pop or music. It is usually the lyric that is elevated. It's the one that people talk about. It's the one that is cherished. You're absolutely right. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. So on a musical level, I would just be tuning in on these Persian songs and being like, oh my God, that sounds like the last one. That sounds like the other one. Yes. Why are they all sounding the same?
Yes.
But then my dad or someone Persian would listen to the songs and be like, oh my God, what a great song. And it's because they were connecting more with the lyrics. They were connecting with it on a completely different level. They listened and they grew up with different ears.
Yes.
The ears that I grew up with in America, like how I learned to listen to music is so different than the way that they learned to listen to music. And so that was the clash, and that was causing me to have to hold back so much on what I focused on the musical level, just so I could break that barrier to get through and be like, hi, I'm here, and my name is Rana Mansour.
That is so interesting because that explains a lot. Yeah, I mean, in some cases where the music that it really isn't that satisfying because, as you say, it can sound cookie cutter or something, is not the focus. And maybe we hear things differently depending on where we grew up.
By the way, check out a song that I did with this Italian singer, Alessandro. It's called Mi Porsa. I wrote that one too. That one I wrote, Shohar Pulda I wrote, a lot of stuff I wrote, but like not as much as
Shohar Pulda.
My Persian material is
Shohar Pulda you wrote.
Yeah.
Because that's interesting because in the YouTube the lyrics did your dad? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
No. I did the music. No. I don't write lyrics in Farsi. I did one lyric in Farsi and it was a total disaster.
I found this so interesting to me that your dad, not only did your dad write lyrics that you sometimes use, and I'm really curious about how you guys work together, but the fact that, for example, the song Zan that you mentioned earlier, which is, an empowering song sung by a woman called Zan, was lyrically written by your father, is that right?
Yeah, lyrically written by my dad, musically written by a guy in Iran.
That's fascinating. Let me play a bit of Zan. This is from 2019, Rana Mansour's Zan.
یک زنم که میزنم به سیم آخر میگم منو ببین یه آدمم که از تو پوست ترم ندا منم هوا منم صدای نسل ما منم اگرچه بستی کنم
That song,
yeah, we were doing women's rights songs before it was like the thing to do.
Your dad must be he's a very interesting guy, I guess.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. He's amazing.
So what's the relationship like when your dad's, how does this work? Your dad goes, hey honey, I think I got some lyrics for you. Is that, how did the songs come out like that?
My dad and I are very, very close. My mom and I are close too, but in two very different, completely different ways. My mother is such a, like, she's probably the classiest like lady I've ever known. She's super just demure and such a lady. And then my dad is the very like fiery, you know, passionate. So am I. And so it's a very wonderful and also like crazy dynamic between he and I, because it's a constant power struggle of who's going to lead.
I mean, are you allowed to, can you say to him, no, that second line sucks? Or does
I say it to him all the time. I don't hold back with him. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. And you're not going to make me budge. It is, I got my stubbornness from him, my hard-headedness from him.
And how does he deal with it if you reject some of his lyrics?
Aggressively. It's an explosive. I have a very loving but also very explosive relationship with my dad. I mean, oh God, don't even like, the getting me into my dating and my love life and all that stuff. But we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to discuss that because, like I said, I'm Rana is zen now.
Meaning you figured that part out? Is that that's going well? And
no more burning bridges.
All right. So your dad gets involved in that too.
In which part?
In the social life.
Yes, he does, because he can't if someone goes and like attacks me, for example, on social media, he'll go and respond.
No, that's obvious. That's
anymore. He used to, and I'd have to be like, Dad, rein it in.
But if he has opinions about who you're dating, and see, this gets confusing when you're actually working together musically as well.
The dating thing is so hard, actually, because there's even people that I haven't even dated before that apparently I have dated, and word has gotten around to my dad that I dated that person. So it's hard for him because people know me and they know him. They know he's my dad. So they'll go and they'll say stuff. Oh, I heard this. You should be careful. And then I'll get a call from him and he'll be angry and emotional. And I'll be like, Dad, did you even like ask me if that was true? So that's another thing that's so difficult. I'm going again. I'm Queen Tangent. My God.
Is he in DC? Where is he?
Dad is in DC.
So
yes.
you have separation of state and state. You're in LA and he's in
but
DC.
somehow words still, it's like telephone,
Wow. This is quite Poru. Like somebody literally, well, I guess it's the pipeline. It's the Persian community. They'll see you talking to somebody at a mehmoni, and then the next thing you know, at a gala, you've spoken to somebody, and there's a phone call to your dad.
Yeah. Recently, even like basically anything. It doesn't even have to be with love life. It's everything, basically. I mean, what we do is in the public eye, and people talk, and people like to stir the pot, This is something that my dad has. I'm learning that my dad is very much a part of this as I am. He is an enormous part of this, in fact. And in fact, I should be giving him a lot more credit than I've done in the past. Him pushing me as much as he has, him insisting on the things that he insisted on Zen. I'm going to tell you, he insisted on it. And I procrastinated and procrastinated and procrastinated. I did it, and it ended up being a big thing. The Sweet 16 album. I'm so embarrassed about this
I couldn't
album.
find it, by the way.
Yeah.
I tried to look for it. Where is it? I scoured the internet. I couldn't find it.
I absolutely refuse for it to be out there. I refuse. It was all original material. I was 16 years old.
It's probably
I was
great.
so lucky to have him do that. He sponsored that whole experience for me. Had I not had that experience of being in the recording studio at the age of 16 before I left for Berklee College of Music, I mean, he's been prepping me without him or I even knowing it. He's a photographer. He's a videographer. That's what he studied. So he's got that artistic side. And since I was 3, picking notes out on the piano at my aunt's house, he was sticking the camera in my face. So I had that exposure. I'm so very, very lucky.
And there's never been a resentment. Like Dad, you're trying to live
I'm not
vicariously
very
through me. Stop it. I want to do my own thing. Leave me alone.
No, he and I have had like I said, it's a very loving but also very explosive relationship. He and I have definitely had our moments where, like, he's said, "You're not my daughter anymore" so many times to me, it's not even funny.
Wow.
But because of the deep bond that he and I have, it's like above these words. It's a very just intense relationship. He cares very, very deeply about me, and he cares very deeply about my career. He's very much invested into it.
Does he have an opinion on whether you're doing work in Persian or in English?
I told him, Dad, he was just recently out here visiting me in LA, and he just left. And while he was here, I was like, Dad, I gotta go to the studio. And he helped me so much because I work like 80 hours a week. I have this other like thing that I'm doing and like has nothing to do with music, and it's crazy. So I have a dog. I'm trying to take care of her.
What other thing? What if it's crazy? What is it? What's the other thing?
No, it's not crazy. Sorry. Did I say it's crazy? What I was saying is crazy is my schedule.
Your schedule is crazy. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's not crazy. It's in fact very, very boring.
Okay.
Anyway, it's just something that I have to do for work. And so my dad came out here to help and take care of my dog and cook and just kind of help out and relieve some of the workload for me. And he, so after work, I would go to the studio because he saw that I'm starting to be creative again.
The bag. Yeah.
The bag. Yeah. He's like, I'm seeing it. Like, he's hearing the new songs. I'm going back to some of the older songs. So he's seeing it. And he's really excited, I think. He's like, great, do it. Do your English stuff. I know you've been wanting to do it for such a long time because I've been really, Jian, like really been wanting to do it for a really long time. I've put it on the back burner for the last 10 to 15 years so that I could, like I said, do this Persian thing and just get some recognition, get known, feel like I've gotten to a certain place in my musical career. I've gained a lot of experience. And now I'm ready. I'm ready for something new.
سپید دم اومد و وقت رفتن حرفی نداریم ما برای گفتن هرچی که بود بین ما تموم شد اینجا برام نیست دیگه جای موندن من میرم از زندگی تو بیرون یادت باشه خونمو کردی ویرون خونمو کردی ویرون.
Man, I love the version of that song. The piece Sepide Dam, originated by Javad Yassari. That's Rana Mansour. Do you feel like the same person in Persian and English? If I were to ask who is the real Rana, because you do have an eclectic mix of things you do. Look, I mean, you put Elvis Costello to shame. You've got that. There's jazz, and then at one point there's like a bebop thing, and then
that was the thing that they told me too. Thanks for bringing that. They were like, "Yeah, you're not gonna because we can't pinpoint you."
Right.
That was
now,
the thing also.
but what's interesting about that now, people do that, and people make great careers doing that. But when I listen to you in English, at least the stuff that I've had access to, because I don't have the Sweet 16 was not available to me. You don't necessarily. You sound maybe not a different person because it's your voice, but I wonder if you feel like the same person when you're performing in English as you do when you're performing in Persian.
Oh my God, no, I feel so liberated when I'm singing in English.
Right. That's
so
interesting.
Liberated.
That would have been my guess.
Thinking about it makes me excited.
That would have been my guess. Well,
uninhibited and liberated.
Right.
Yeah, because that's my thing. That's like, it's like breathing.
There's very few people, I think, that can really pull off. I was trying to think of artists who are truly bicultural, who kind of, and it's usually when they have a very specific style and they just change the language. So like Shakira can sing in English, but she's still playing the same music that she does or Nelly Furtado does Portuguese, but otherwise, when I was thinking of examples, I was thinking about how different people sound in different, and I sometimes feel like when I'm speaking Farsi, I don't feel totally like the same person. I can't be funny in the same way, or I can't be, so that surely translates into music, right?
And expression. It's expressing yourself. That's what it is. And I don't even think it's music. I think it's expression. Like, oh, I can finally feel free to express myself fully without having to worry about my bills being paid. You know what it's that too also, Jian. It's not just it's like not just on a spiritual level, but also on a practical level. I had to get to that point because I really struggled as an independent artist. I struggled financially so much.
Yep.
And when you are struggling financially as an artist, it's not easy to create. It's really difficult. You don't have the time because you have to work all these jobs to make ends meet. You know what I mean?
But there's a circuit as a Persian artist, getting back to when you said you kind of went into partly doing the Persian music because it makes you unique. Yeah, there's a circuit that doesn't actually exist. I mean, this thing of playing private parties, for example, in LA, there aren't like indie singer-songwriters in Toronto who are singing in English who necessarily have access to a bunch of, a scene of galas and parties where they can play money.
No, they don't. We were very lucky.
Yeah. It's very interesting that, can you explain that circuit? Like, how does that work? Because the closest thing in English culture
party circuit?
Yeah.
I started off doing weddings here when I moved out here because Shahbaz Shahpere actually introduced me to Persian music.
Right.
Yeah, and he was like, just learn all the covers and come sing for Black Cats and start doing weddings with us. And that was when Kyan was doing, that was when he was in Black Cats. So he and I became friends then. So we started doing weddings, and so I learned how to do that. And I continued to do that for a couple of years. And then I decided I don't want to do weddings anymore, but I'm going to keep doing private parties. Mm-hmm. For me, it was like, okay, for me, I'm not judging anyone else, mm-hmm. but for me personally, I was like, not doing weddings anymore. Done. Mm. I did it. I got what I needed to get out of it. Moving on. you know, charity events. Let's do charity events. So then I started to do a lot of charity events for a bunch of different organizations out here. We're so lucky. I mean, you're absolutely right. And I'm so lucky that they asked me to perform at their events, and we were able to make money, doing that.
Exactly.
And a lot of my American artists, American musician friends, they look at me and they're like, oh my God, you're doing so well.
They're working at a diner. Yeah. This is an interesting paradox that I wanted to actually illuminate because when it comes to you in particular.
But then I'll look at them and be like, but you're doing songs in English and I'm not. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the paradox. You tell me if you agree. The paradox is that the big prize, in other words, if you really want to become an international star, and all that comes with that, including the material success and everything, that's available in English. You cannot really make that kind of career in Persian music, save 3 people, 4 people, we all know their names, or at least it's tough. But at the same time, you went into Persian music because there was money to be made in private parties and gigs that you can't make in English music until you get to that level.
You know what? I believe we're changing the game of those 3 names.
You think there's like...
I think we're totally changing the game.
How many more can we add?
I think we have already changed the game. Because of the fact that we insisted on being independent. Like anybody who's ever started doing anything new, anyone who's ever took the first step to do something that nobody else has done or not many people are doing, it's rough at first. And then it becomes a wave. And then it becomes like the thing that everybody wants to do. But at first, it's really hard to like break that. Like artists like me and Kyan also started a very long time ago. Something happened in that country politically that changed everything, and it changed our music, and it held us back for 2 decades.
What happened? What are you talking about? I don't know. No, I'm kidding.
So everything became Los Angeles-y for 2 decades.
Right. But like, Rana, this will be familiar to you. There are a number of really great artists outside of Iran now, performing, but there's a lot of heartache too, in the sense that because that system of remuneration, of copyright, of publishing, of royalties and all that doesn't exist, because that's where the main audience is still back in this country that's behind sort of an iron fence, whether it's your buddy Erfan or whether it's Hamed Nikpeh or Ali Azimi, these people we've had on the show who all say it's really hard to make money because our audience isn't available to us, and nor are the royalties that a Western musician or an artist or a songwriter would be getting, right?
The focus does not need to be about the money. That is the problem.
Okay.
If you want to make money as an artist, I don't know. I'm at a point where I'm just like, make money doing something else, okay, and focus on your art.
I disagree with you. I think the money is important. The problem is, as long as artists are not making a lot of money, it will continue to enable Persian parents to say to their talented guitarist, piano player, Rana Mansour singer kid, you know, sorry, you need to go into engineering because, look, even the most successful people, even Rana, who's the best singer in the world, can't make money at this. She's not making enough money at this. That's the problem.
We've made good money doing it.
No,
I've made pretty good money.
Not compared to what you would make as a Western artist.
It's not consistent.
You know the story of Farid Zolan and all these people who've written incredible songs and haven't made the kind of money that they would if they'd been Western songwriters. You know all that, right?
That's because they haven't had. It's a very
the respect of an industry that appreciates creative work.
Yeah. A lot of things involved in it. I'm not saying that the money's not important. The money's important. I'm just saying that there's so many factors involved. At the end of the day, whether you start now as an artist, whether you start now or you start tomorrow, stop giving your art away exclusively. Copyright everything that you do and create.
All right. Since we've mentioned some of the big names, let me ask you about playing with them and playing in front of them. And this performance that I thought was amazing, that you that you're already issuing disclaimers about, that there wasn't a sound check or whatever. You sang at the tribute concert for Ebi, 50 years in the business in 2017. You sang Shabzadeh.
Amazing.
And you brought the house down. And I know you look at the numbers, but this has literally over 1 million views on YouTube.
Has it gotten over 1 million?
Yes, it's huge. Let me play a bit of it first of all, so people can know what we're talking about.
Jian, high five over Zoom. Come on, give me a high five. Yes.
عزیز بومی ای هم قبیله رو اسب قربت چه خوش نشستی تو این ولایت ای با اصالت تو مونده بودی تو هم شکستی تشنه و مؤمن به تشنه موندن غرور اسم دیار ما بود اون که سپردی به باد حسرت تمام دار و ندار ما بود
There you go. Rana Mansour at the tribute concert for Ebi in 2017. Let me explain a few things to people here, because I find this really important. First of all, what you just heard there was live. This wasn't recorded in a studio with editing, with tuning, with auto tuners, with devices, with multiple takes. That was a live performance. Secondly, that's someone who grew up, who was born in the States, grew up in the West, has never been to Iran, singing in tribute to an Iranian music legend in Farsi. I mean, the whole thing is amazing to me. It's amazing to me. I think that's fantastic.
I have to tell you that, like, you have really made me, like, I don't do this a lot. I don't go back and say, you know, Rana, like, you should pat yourself on the back. I don't do that. And, you know, you're doing that for me, and it feels really good. Because you told me, you're like, it went over 1 million. I'm like, yes, that's awesome. That's great. You know?
It's pretty great.
That feels really good.
Tell me about that experience. What was that night?
So
what did it mean to you? Yeah, go ahead.
It was so nerve-wracking. Pretty much everybody was there. There were a lot of people that were there that have been in the industry for a really long time. It was very intimidating because I could literally feel their energy of, like, I don't know. It was mixed, you know. It's like when you're looking out on the crowd and you're performing, and then also I had just been given that song, so I had to memorize the lyrics. I had the lyrics. It was like a million things were going on.
How long did you have to memorize the lyrics? Like, when did they tell you?
To learn. The night before, we had a concert with Faramaz Aslani in Toronto, actually. So we flew in after a concert. We hopped on a plane like a red eye.
Where was it? In LA?
Yeah. I was vocally exhausted. I was like,
what if you screw up the lyrics in front of Abby, you know?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
There was, my heart was racing. You know, and it was a huge, huge honor, you know, for me to have been, like, invited there to do that, because I was still a newcomer, and you know what I mean? I mean, in terms of, like, everyone else that was in that room.
You seem like, I mean, I know enough performers to know that you don't judge a book by its cover. You know, Tony Bennett once told me that he gets butterflies every time he goes on stage still, you know. But you seem very in command, in control. Like, you don't look like someone who has anything phasing you. Yeah. Because you're good, you know that you're gonna hit the notes, you know that you're gonna be able to do you still get nervous in situations like that?
Oh, absolutely. I've also made a lot of mistakes, you know. I mean, we're talking about, like, many years of experience of performing live, you know. The
mistakes you hear that the rest of us don't hear.
Well, no, the mistakes mistakes that I hear, but also, like, actual mistakes. So my point is that I've gotten good at covering things up. That was my point. Right. I've gotten good at hiding it. I've gotten good because at the end of the day, I've learned that what matters is the experience you're giving to people. They're not going to be focused on, oh, she messed up this lyric or she messed up this. Even if you do, so what? Smile. Sing your butt off, like, put on a show. You know, that's what goes on in my head. It's like, show them who you are. I don't have to be the best entertainer, but you know what? I'm going to smile through that flip up I just had. I'm still going to make it a good performance. I've learned how to do that. I've learned how to hide, and I still get the butterflies and nervous because it's excitement, because I just love performing so much. I feel like I'm myself when I'm on the stage.
After you do a gig like that, where, as you say, almost everybody's in the room. Yeah. Does it change everything the next? I mean, is it like in the old days going on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and the next day you got a pile of offers for things?
It was definitely a next level up for me that wasn't expected, and I'm so grateful to Ebby for that opportunity. So incredibly grateful. That was really great what they did for me. Yeah.
Speaking of playing with legends and playing with well-known artists, you recently were, maybe the biggest thing you've done most recently is to co-host this show called Replay, which I think shot in Sweden, and it involved bringing a bunch of well-known Persian artists together, and then they perform and sort of cross-pollinate with each other. You were co-hosting this and performing yourself. It's called Replay on NBC Persia. What was that experience like for you?
It was such an amazing experience. It was also very tumultuous and very, very exciting. And just so many things happened behind the scenes, as they always do. Mm-hmm. And I was also in my personal life going through something. I mean, I was going through a divorce and like just, a lot of things. So that was also another step for me. And I'm so grateful because I'd never been a host before. So that was another platform that I feel really put me in a good spotlight. I'm not following the numbers. I hope it's circling around. I really hope people like the show. Honestly, I really, really hope so. I want to see immediate results, but like, I think it takes time. Maybe that's why I also don't watch the numbers too, because it's like watching a pot, like for the water to boil. You got to give things time.
Is it going to continue? Are there going to be more seasons of replay?
I certainly hope so. Right now, they're just doing the replay.
They're replaying the replay.
It was an amazing experience. I'd never hosted before. I had to do everything in Farsi, so I had to memorize a lot of lines on the day of. I actually didn't have a lot of preparation before I left, and it was so awesome to be put in the position of host and artist, all in one show.
I was watching an interview with you from 2015. It wasn't even that long ago, right? 6 years ago. And your Farsi wasn't perfect. I mean, it was kind of like mine, like mine is now, which I consider deficient. I mean, I'll speak for a minute and then search for a word. And then, and now, I mean, it feels like in the last few years, you've catapulted to the next level of golden Farsi speaker, right?
It's gotten better. Good. Nice. I felt like that too. I felt that it really helped. I learned a lot of new words. Just an honor. I feel really lucky. I feel so grateful and lucky to have had these experiences, to like meet so many wonderful people and work with so many amazing people and like watch our production reach so many viewers. Like, we're doing stuff. We're doing things. We're making things happen. The results may not happen overnight. It's frustrating. I know it's been a long road for Iranian artists. It's still a long road. I mean, the crossover road, I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing things through rose-colored glasses. I really don't know.
I thought to myself, because I've heard you talk about the lawsuit before, that I'm going to try and do this interview without asking about the lawsuit, because one gets tired of talking about lawsuits after a while.
I'm going to write a book.
Please do. But I am so grateful for the time you've given us, for the candor, the jousting, every part of it, all of it. I'm very grateful. A final question before I ask you, but you've just released a new song, which I want to play as we go out and ask you about. But before that, tell me what it's about for you these days, if you can really
music.
Be
what
on
music's
it.
About?
But yes, this career, Rook. I mean, do you want international stardom? Do you want lots of money?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hell yeah. Nobody knows that about me, but now they know. A lot of people have come and said, "Oh, you come across as like really, I'm definitely shy. There's a side to me that is very, very introverted, really insecure, incredibly insecure, like deeply. And people don't see that side. They don't know that side. And I keep to myself a lot. I hold a lot of pain to myself, which is not healthy. And I'm learning how to have healthy outlets for that. But I can't change who I am. I'm always going to be that way. I'm always going to just but I'm incredibly, like, when I want something, I want it. Even if it takes until like the age of 65 for me to get there. When you're on a life path, any life path at all, it's like an adventure. I mean, life is an adventure. People are going to come and try to thwart your success, and they're going to do this and say that, and they're going to try to dim your light, and you have got to fight through that. And I will continue to do it with love, by being a good person, being a better person. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to go after it, and I am going after it. And everything that has happened to me and for me up to this point is preparing me for that. I know that now more than ever.
I think that's true. I think that's inevitably true. We are the product of everything has come before, and you're certainly on.
It's
on quite
everything I've ever worked for. I've sacrificed so much. Like, I sacrificed having a love life. having children. I don't have a husband. I don't have kids. And in fact, my 2 failed marriages are the result of me wanting this so bad, and not being able to properly give to a relationship. You know what I mean?
You don't think you could be in a relationship and do what you do?
I think that I can. Absolutely, I do. I believe that I can have it all. I'm not ready for that right now because of my past and because of the things that I've gone through, like relationship, love life level. I'm still healing. And I'm just like so happy to be single and really focus on self-love, because I really believe that at the end of the day, you need to have the best relationship with yourself before you can even think about having a committed relationship with another human being. Like, your relationship with yourself has to be so solid. And that's what I'm working on.
Don't you think if somebody meets you at this point and gets into a relationship with you at this point, that they would understand that they're
going to have to understand.
Yeah, that you're Rana Mansour. They're
going to have to. But you'd be surprised what a huge weight that can be on your partner's shoulders if they're truly, truly not ready to take that on. And choosing the right partner has a lot to do with it also.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, because people aren't perfect, and love isn't everything. Love is not enough to make a relationship last.
Oh, I see.
The long haul.
I thought you meant as a general statement, love isn't everything. And I was kind of like, oh, yes, it is.
No, it's got to be.
I see.
To make
in a relationship,
love
absolutely.
Is great.
Yeah.
Love is great for passion and excitement. Yes. But love is not, it's not the most stable thing. There's things that you got to have, that you got to really be on the same page. And
do you think that the last thing I do on this program is get into gossipy sort of but do you think that I mean really but do you think being with another musician or artist, what have you learned about that? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think I'm going to have to be with another artist, and I think and in fact, I've only been with artists.
Well, that's why I'm asking. If you, it's one of the lessons maybe not to be with an artist.
Not being with an artist. Yeah. I mean, I'm open. Okay, like I said, right now I'm really just focusing on myself. But like, I'm open to. This is not Rana Mansour's dating profile, by the way. Okay, like we're not doing Rana Mansour available, and I know that you're not doing that.
It's inadvertently turned it. Yes, yeah. But our email address is info@Rook Media. If you know someone who, no, I've been told that it's better to, because I'm an artist, to kind of sometimes to be with a non-artist is the best thing, because it's yin and yang.
Who's so comfortable in himself with where he's at.
You've said a lot.
There's not that level of competition, because that will come up. And if the competition comes up, it should be playful. It should never lead to like resentment. It should be like we're in a healthy way, making each other better. So if that competition is there, and I would like that, actually. That would be really fun.
In some ways, I also believe that there's a reason why Hollywood actors date Hollywood actors and musicians date musicians, and it's not just because they're other. It's because not just because they can date a famous person, but because they're, to a certain extent, they're the only people who understand them. Another artist may be the only person who really, at your level, who really understands the nature of your sort of commitments and life. But the most important part of this is to filter it all through your father. That's and make sure that he has the say.
I do not need my dad calling me.
If you could give me his number, I can consult with him.
Out with who? What?
I could go through profiles of people and send them to him before giving them to you, to make sure that he's he can write the lyrics and. Tell us about this new song that you've just put up on Spotify.
Ahange Be Marifat. So I debuted a couple new songs on the NBC replay. This was one of them.
Is this the live version that you did there, or is this a re-record?
No. This is the official.
The official recording. And you have a song coming out with our dear friend Babak as well?
Yeah, that's his song. I covered that on the show because part of the concept of the show was that they would have a lead artist, and then that lead artist would perform their own songs, and then there were other guest artists on the show. They would perform their own songs, and then the lead artist would be surprised by one of those artists to cover one of the lead artist's songs. So they asked me to cover Bobak's song when he was the lead artist for at the third episode.
When you were doing replay, who was the most surprising? I mean, it's such a cool thing to be sitting there and you have all these really amazing Iranian artists coming in that probably some of them you didn't know before, right? Personally, who was the most surprising connection for you that somebody that you just really hit it off with that you hadn't expected to become friends with?
Golnar and Mahan, because I didn't know them at all. I didn't know their art. I didn't know their music. She's an incredible musician. She knows her craft very, very well. Again, going back to the whole sacrificing artistic integrity thing, like, because I have that education, I know when someone else knows their shit. I really liked their music a lot.
You must have thought about what it's like to play in Iran. Do you fantasize about getting to do a tour in Iran in some future?
I'm manifesting it. Definitely.
Please manifest it. We need somebody.
I'm gonna burn some sage.
Listen, it's been so great, and I've been so looking forward to this. And one of the fun things about getting to prepare for an interview like this is to immerse myself in the person's craft. So just spending the last week listening to your music and your voice has been really a special adventure for me that I'll always remember, and obviously I'll continue listening. But so thanks for taking the time.
I haven't heard anything yet.
Well, the bag, the most important, the only takeaway from the interview for everybody is the bag. When do we get to hear the bag?
You need to hear the real Rana Mansour. She's coming.
We're excited. Thank you. Hope to see you soon in person. Say hi to the doggy, and merci.
Aww, thanks, Jian. This was one of my absolute favorite interviews. I could probably even say it was my most favorite.
That's really sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Soon. Bye.
Bye.
Iranian-American singer-songwriter, the remarkable Rana Mansour. Rana joined us from Los Angeles, California today.
دیر میای و زود میری باز برای من قصه نساز با چی سرت گرمه بگو اون عشقی که گفتی کجا بهم میگی سرت شلوغه همش دروغه از بس که پرپر میزنی این در و اون در میزنی بهت میگن عوض شدی به سیم آخر میزنی ته این رابطه معلومه دیگه تمومه بی معرفت تنهام گذاشتی چرا با این حال بد ساختی ازم یادم بی روح و سرد آخه بی معرفت اینو بدون خودت میخواستی باشه این عشق بینمون رفتی و پا گذاشتی رو آیندمون چی شد اون عشقمون اون عشقمون.
There you go. The brand new song from Rana Mansour, Be Marafat. Unless you get to play that. That's Captain Reza, Groovy Shaya, the fabulous Kyan. Microphones are back on. How about that, Rana Mansour?
She's wildly talented, and she writes her own music. That's impressive. I'm shocked. Radio Javan would not play her music? Are you kidding me? That to me is like appalling. But like literally, you guys have seen it. Every week they release, excuse me for saying this, but garbage, and they're not playing Rana Mansour. Shocked.
Yeah, I don't. That's the thing. Look, I don't know about that. Like, I feel like, but again, I don't know the full scope of the story. But to me, it's like, all right, you were an unknown singer. you propose your music to them, and they said no. So they probably do that to a million other singers.
Okay, but
they're not going to take just about anything.
They literally release like some random singer every week.
I
Like
know,
a
but
new,
this-
like a hairdresser that started
Yeah.
decided to sing all of a sudden. You know.
Yeah, and I have no ties to Radio Javan. I'm not
Are you
defending
sure?
them whatsoever. I don't even know them. But I'm looking at it from like a perspective of a content creator, right? Like I make movies. I go to Netflix. There are a lot of shit on Netflix that is worse than my movies. But if they don't take mine, it's just simply it's a business decision. That person that you talked to wasn't
It sounds like there was
interested.
some personal issue. But anyway, that's my
Maybe.
opinion.
I don't know.
No, but generally Radio Javan sometimes doesn't deal with artists fairly, you know, and I think what Rana wants to say is that the platform, they don't have to act selectively. Like I like your music, I don't like your music. Your platform, you have to be.
All of this is animated by the fact that it's the only game in town. That's the problem. You know, it's like it can make and break careers to a certain extent. It seems. Something I really liked about what she was just saying that I really didn't. I mean, it makes so much sense to me, but I don't think I've thought about it enough before. Is the idea that Persian songs, even Persian pop music, are much more focused on the lyrics than the music, and it is the inverse in Western pop music. I mean, to a certain extent, in some cases, it doesn't even matter. I can think of huge hit songs where the lyrics were relatively banal in English, but you know, it was all about the melody. It's all about the. Whereas, you know, she was saying the way her dad or others listen to Persian pop, it's like they put the primacy on the lyrics. And if the lyrics are satisfying, it almost doesn't matter as much what the music around it is, or the rhythm, or if it's cookie cutter or whatever. That's fascinating. That divide, that delta.
And also the other thing that's fascinating for me, that her dad wrote probably some other songs for Rana, but these two songs, Zan and Shohar Puldar, the fact that her dad write that Man yek zanam or Shohar Puldar nemikham, it's so fascinating. Yeah.
Very interesting. He's clearly an interesting guy, and clearly they have a most fascinating relationship that apparently is tumultuous and loving and all the things that you would expect a creative couple to be. Well, thanks to Rana Mansour for coming on, and we'd love to hear your thoughts about it. You can post on our platforms or email us at info@rookmedia.com. Remember, if you like what you're hearing on this program, become a patron of Rook at rookmedia.com. Press the support us button. It really helps us out. So, it's Thursday. You guys all know what that means. She's a dear friend, a diaspora blend, a gym workout cat, and a bicultural brat. But lovable, smart, and funny, and on a journey to discover what we actually discovered. Here we go, Bacha. It's All Persian to Us with Kyan Nademi. All right, Kyan. You teased us earlier.
I
with
sure
something
did.
tantalizing you've come up with for this week's invention, Persian discovery. What is it?
Well, summer has officially arrived in Toronto. We're now, what is it, like 29 degrees outside? People are starting to come outside to run, swim, and really just breathe after months of being cooped up indoors during the winter months. Well, sometimes the heat can just be a little too much, and dare I say, unbearable. I know. It's sacrilegious to even say that in Toronto after a miserable winter here. But really, spending a few hours outside in the heat can really feel unescapable sometimes. Well, humans found a crafty way to cope with all that heat. It comes in many different forms, but what we know for sure is it's sweet, creamy, cool, and can sometimes cause brain freeze. Come on, guys, you know what I'm talking about. Yes.
Bastani.
Yes, I scream, you scream, we all scream. The cops show up, it gets weird. Then they scream too for ice cream. Believe it or not, this sweet delight and gift of the gods was invented by our ancestors, the Persians.
no.
We invented ice cream.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is insane.
I think If I knew this, I've forgotten, because this is a big one.
Yeah, I mean, can you blame them? Imagine being stuck outside in 40-degree weather in the middle of desert for hours. If it ain't suicide, it had to be ice cream. It makes sense, too, because they did, in fact, invent the first refrigerator, or the yakhchal, after all.
Right.
So it's only natural that they invented that icy sweet treat and sweet relief from the heat. Pardon me as I bow down to the genius inventors for saving all our lives. Put me in 40-degree weather for a few hours and I probably give up my firstborn for Bastani. Don't you just love that word, Bastani? But anyway, the first evidence of ice cream was found around 550 BC in, you guessed it, the Persian Empire. Those crafty Persians were mixing ice with grape juice, fruit juice, honey, or really any pleasantly tasting flavors to produce an ice cream-like treat.
Sounds like a slushy.
Yeah, so this treat was called sharbat. And this is where the word for sorbet comes from, sharbat, yes. And since most of the Persian Empire was quite hot, some might have even called ice cream survival back then. However, this delicacy was really hard and expensive to make, which made it a noble or royal dish. Of course, what did you expect? An affordable food of the gods to be affordable? Ha! Eventually, the Persian Empire met its maker in the form of one Alexander the Great. And soon the secret was out. After long days of fighting, pillaging, the usual war stuff, our man Alex cooled down with the local fruit ices, or sharbat. Well, naturally, this was something to write home about, and soon this ancient ice cream spread to Greece and Rome, where the nobility indulged themselves with this sweet and extremely expensive treat. You remember how a few months ago I revealed that the first refrigerator, or yakhchal, was invented by the Persians?
Yes.
Well, which do you think came first, the ice cream or the fridge?
Oh, it's
The fridge.
chicken and egg.
Ice cream,
Oh.
believe it or not. Yes, the first yakhchal made an appearance around 400 BC, 150 years after the first evidence of ice cream, which means the Persians loved their ice cream so much that it was imperative for them to come up with a way to preserve it essentially throughout the hot summer months.
Right.
In comes the yakhchal and out goes the stress. Ah, paradise. Also a word with Persian origins. But anyway, it was also around this time in 400 BC that another form of ice cream was invented by the Persians. A dessert made of rosewater, saffron, vermicelli noodles, and fruits. It was a cross between a sorbet and rice pudding called falude. Yes, well, as you know, the fate of the Persian Empire eventually changed around the Arab conquest in 651 AD. Loud sigh. And like with every other Persian invention, the Arabs adopted this sweet Persian treat. They even developed it further by adding milk and sugar, which became a closer relative of modern ice cream as we know it. And soon later on in the 8th century, during the Arab invasion of Sicily in Italy, this version of ice cream spread there too, which further developed into gelato. Yes. The old version of ice cream known as sharbat made its way too, which later became known as sorbet. And from Sicily, these ice creams spread throughout Europe and soon the world. So if we look on the bright side, without the Arab invasion of Persia, ice cream might have never spread to the rest of the world. Just think what a sad, sad world that would have been.
Right.
So whether you lick, slurp, or bite into it, we can all agree that this is the most delicious dessert ever created. Just imagine a world without ice cream. Madness. Madness, I tell you. So I bow down to the great people who invented the first ice cream 2,500 years ago in a land called Persia. And in the end, it's all Persian to us.
Very nicely delivered.
What's your favorite ice cream?
My favorite ice cream is there's it's some derivation of chocolate. I mean, I like pistachio ice cream. I like Heavenly Hash.
Heavenly Hash. Who is
Heavenly
this?
Hash.
What are you talking about?
Rocky Road.
You mean like marijuana ice
Sounds like
cream?
an ice cream.
Yeah. What kind of ice cream are you
There's a Heavenly
consuming?
Hash ice cream. But you know what I was thinking? We should demand and next time you go to your local ice cream parlor, demand a commission, a royalty.
Right? That's
You
what
know?
I'm thinking too,
We should get a
man.
kickback as
This
Persians.
is madness. Nobody knows this, by the way.
Reparations.
But what I want to know is that we didn't have yakhchal. How did they make ice?
So basically, they were so the reason why it's so expensive, they had, like the royalty had servants basically go to the mountains and collect ice, run all the way back down, and then they would make it for however long it lasted. So I'm not sure actually how they preserved the ice as they were running back down from the mountain, but yeah, eventually they had to come up with
Let's not get
more
technical,
effective way.
Reza.
Yeah, Reza, God.
We invented it.
By the way, it sounds like the Arabs invented the ice cream.
Well, okay, so they added.
There's always like some weird, it's like we invented chess. Actually, India invented it, but then we invented it.
But then we took.
Yeah.
So they added milk and sugar, but really we came up with the first.
We came up with some ice mixed with blueberries.
Oh, come on.
We sent Akbar to Kohistan.
like a sweet.
We had
flavor.
the first ice cream. It was ice and some strawberry
Actually-
mixed together.
You didn't. Well, we had the first ice.
Speaking of Akbar Mashti, there's actually an interesting story. So look into it. I recommend everybody to read into it. It was
Akbar Mashti ice cream?
how it came to be. Yeah, in the 1920s.
All right.
So.
Well done. Thank you, Kyan. It's All Persian To Us. Can be found at our website, rookmedia.com, if you want to look at back episodes of it and find out what else we've discovered. The fabulous Kyan, Groovy Shaya, Captain Reza, thank you all for your contributions today. The Rook On Air team. This is full time for Rook for today. Monday on this program, I believe, Rastok joining us for a full feature episode. The fabulous Iranian folkloric group in Tehran. Rastok will be our guests on Monday. Our website for Rook, rookmedia.com, where you can check out our previous episodes, support the program, see our list of guests. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together each week. Producer Susan, Ponta the artist, Thoughtful Nagin, the fabulous Kyan, Savvy Roham, Ahai Merdad, Master Muhammad, Captain Reza, and Groovy Shaya. Thank you to all of you out there supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe on any platform you're currently on if you've not done so already. Find me at Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. Mizun Bashi.